Hi guys, welcome to a brief overview with some suggested tips on things you may want to consider doing for your web conference number 3. So in this one, it is a synchronous session where you need at least 2 participants from your group, and it should include using the activity tools within WebEx to test students, keep them involved, test their knowledge, but it should also, in the integration phase, should include a case study and a breakout room. So the content for this web conference is Chapter 5, the Community of Inquiry, and Chapter 6, the Community of Inquiry Research, that's found in your textbook by Randy Garrison, Thinking Collaboratively, Learning in a Community of Inquiry. So yeah, let's go ahead and get started. So you will want to go into your pilot class and go to the web conference assignment and review all the required for each and every web conference. But then for this web conference, if you scroll down closer to the bottom, there are some specific requirements for this one for the case study. And let's see if I can go ahead and pull that up. Give me a second. Yeah, I do have it actually right here. So if you go to week 5, in addition to all the, the normal ones where you have high quality slides and presentation, and then you have to do the practical inquiry model of the triggering, exploration, integration, and resolution, and that you have the basic requirements, and then all the setup things that you should do ahead of time. So include those. But if you come down to the specific requirements for week number 5, you are going to record it and make sure that it includes all the information, that you're going to do retrieval practice for the web conference and using the annotation tools, just like you did for the second web conference. But in addition to that, you'll create a short case study or prompt, which will be included in your integration phase. And you'll create shareable Google Slides where the students will go to the Google Slides to complete the case study, and then they will come back. And how you will share that Google Slides is by using the text chat by pasting in the Google URL. You will create the breakout rooms and end the breakout rooms, and then the students will report back. Make sure that you include a virtual assignment for students that aren't there for them to do the case study. Have the students all report back after they do their work in the case study, and they will use their talk tool to report back. And then in the resolution portion of it, you will want to do some assessment for knowledge for the entire thing, and that's where you will use a Slido tool to do polls. Okay? All right, getting back to it. Remember that this is about the students using the tools, the students using the case study, the students using Google Slides, and then the students using the Slido tools also. It's not about the instructor. It's not about you using the circling and the marking on the tools. It's about the students. So be sure to design it accordingly. I always make myself a cheat sheet of all the things I need to do ahead of the presentation as I'm creating my PowerPoints, because you get rushed and it just prompts you to remember to do it. And then I usually log in about a half an hour ahead of time, get everything set up. That usually takes me about 15 minutes. And then you can relax for 15 minutes. But here's a list of all the things you need to do ahead of time. So you need to create your PowerPoint slides. I usually will do that days ahead of time, and then they're ready to go. You also need to create your your Google Slides that students will use when they're in the breakout room. And I'll do a brief overview of that. You need to set up your WebEx session ahead of time, send out put the email addresses in so that students get the email invite, and you learned how to do that last week, so we won't go over that. You need to create and save the Slido polling questions. So I'll do a brief overview of that. I've got instructions in Pilot you can follow too. You need to import and display the previously saved Slido. So you'll probably want to create the Slido questions like days ahead of time, but right before the session, you'll want to pull up those Slido sessions to have them ready to go, so that you're not doing it in the middle of the session. Well, I'll show you how to do that. You'll want to share the PowerPoint slides by doing the share file that you learned last week, so I won't go over that. You need to activate the annotation for student utilization. I would recommend having those instructions on your first slide so that it reminds students to go ahead and do it, but you need to activate it so they have the ability to click on annotate. So that needs to be done ahead of time. You need to set up the breakout rooms ahead of time so that you can just quickly reactivate them once the session starts. I'll show you quickly how to do that. You need to launch the Google Slides, have them ready to go so that you're not doing it in the middle of the session. And then you need to, right before the session starts, start your microphone, start your video, and then click record. So those are all the things you'll want to do ahead of time. And let me come back to this. You may want to go ahead and write things down or take a picture of this and make yourself a cheat sheet because these are the things that you'll want to do, at least, some of the things you'll want to do before the third session, maybe even more. But I would make a picture of this and the next one just to, so that you can make yourself a cheat sheet to do these things ahead of time too, okay? All righty. Before class, you will want to make those Google Slides. And to do that, you'll want to go to google.com. And then you click on Drive, and I usually will go in and create a folder. I usually have a folder called Class Slides, and then I create a subfolder for each one of the classes. And then I usually will do a subfolder for week 1, week 2, week 3. So create as many folders or subfolders as you need. And then within the right folder, you will click on New Google Slides. That's step number 2. Step number 3 is creating those slides. And on the slide, you will want to have, students will not be able to remember, you will have the case study in the main room, in the main slide, and you'll go over it with everybody, but they will not, it's too much cognitive load to remember what the case study prompt was from the main slide by the time they get into the breakout. So you need to have a replica slide that's got the prompt and it's got the directions for how they need to complete it. In addition to that, you want to have a lot of blank room for them to complete their case study, to write their answers to use to share back. And then step number 4, you need to share it so that students have the editable rights to be able to go in there and write on the slides. And to do that, you click on share and you go in, anyone with the link has the editor access rights, and then click done. So that's how you do the Google Slides. Oh, and how you get the URL. Remember I said you have the Google slide up ahead of time. I will usually go ahead and click on share. You can click on copy link right here. And then sometimes I'll do it right as I'm about to share it. And then you just put it in the text chat and share it with the group. So that's how you get the URL. Another thing you need to do ahead of time is create and save those Slido polling questions. So Slido is a company that's a third-party company that you get access rights to when you have a WebEx license, which Wright State does, and so you're entitled to use those. We're doing it because they're much more robust than the very simple polling that's included with WebEx. So to do that, you're going to start at the Slido website. So go to slido.com, you click on login in the right-hand corner, and then you select login with WebEx. You're going to log in with your Wright State connections, which makes a connection between the Slido site and the Wright State WebEx site. So it makes that handshake between the two. So then you click on step number 1, you click on new slide. Slido. Step number 2, you put in the dates and you give it a meaningful name, and be really careful about the name because what happens is when it creates the handshake and you go back into your WebEx and you activate the app, it's going to go through and pull through all the Slido polling that you had created. And if it's not a meaningful name, you won't be able to find it. So give it, like, for example, web conference number 3. So then you're going to add step number 3, you're going to add the polls. Really nice, robust capabilities. So you can add ones like multiple choice and word cloud and quiz and rating and open text and ranking. So you can go ahead and add as many to this as you want, and then you activate each question as needed, which is really nice. And then you go ahead and step number 4, you save it. So it's in the Slido cloud, just waiting to be with that handshake, and it pulls it right into your WebEx session. So before class, before it starts, you know, those questions could probably be created days ahead of time, but then right as you're launching that WebEx session, you've got it up and going. You're a half an hour out before class starts. You're doing all your setup time. You come down here and you click on the application, step number 1 down here. And one of those that comes up, one of the apps that are available is Slido. You go ahead and click on Slido. It does that handshake with the cloud that you had previously created. It pulls up all the different Slido sessions groupings that you have, and that's why the name is so important. And then you click on the one for today, it pulls through all those questions, and then you can just activate them as needed. So that's how you get it started. And then once your session is going, they're all there waiting to use. And once the slide comes up that says Slido question 1, then you can go ahead and activate it. So another thing you'll want to do before the session begins is set up your breakout rooms. Now what you do is you set it up how you want it to do, and then once you're ready to do those, you just activate it. So you're going to click in the bottom, step number 1, the 3 ellipses on the toolbar, and you're going to say, you're going to go ahead and enable breakout rooms. And then step number 2, you'll set it up with 4 different breakout rooms and let participants choose any session. Now, you'll only have 2 fake participants, and so you should direct both of your participants to go into the first breakout room, but I just want you to get some practice creating these. Step number 3, you can go into the settings if you want and change some of the settings. One you may consider is that when you go to shut that breakout room, the default is 60 seconds, which is forever. So I would recommend changing that to about 10 seconds. Or even if they have one to shut immediately, you know, just make that quick because you don't have a lot of time. And then you close all your breakout rooms, and then you start your session, and then when you're ready to go, it's all set up. And then when you go ahead and start the breakout room again, you're good to go. All right, so you've done all your startup ahead of time, and you have your opening slide that comes up. You want to make sure you have your course name, date, and time here, and then any setup information, anything you want them to do while they're logging in, and maybe they have 2 or 3 minutes to remind them to do things to set up. One of the things that's not listed on this slide that I would recommend adding is information for them to activate their annotations tool, which means you need to have set that up ahead of time too. So, and then, you know, any other information, like if they have to do a missed class summary, but let's say you logged in a half an hour early, it took you about 15 minutes to do all your pre-setup, and then you can have this showing while you relax and get yourself a drink before class starts. Okay, so you come back, class is about ready to start, and when it starts, I'm going to turn this annotation tool off because I want to show you how to do that. Class is about ready to start. Don't forget to come over here and unmute yourself, start the video, and then you're going to start the recorder, which I'm going to do none of today because I am recording using TechSmith Camtasia, another recorder, which is WebEx, which would really mess up my system. So for today's video, I am not going to do that. So you go ahead and get started with your system. So if you would like to, hold on, I need a quick drink. You can remind them to turn their phone off, shut the door, put a do not disturb sign on. If you want to remind them that you're coming from home, if you hear noises, these are all optional. If you want to do a deep breath, I enjoy doing this, but it's completely optional. What is not optional, though, is you always want to do a quality check where you ask them to verify that the session's being recorded. You ask them to verify that the slide is advancing, so they see the words quality check or whatever is at the top of your slide, and you ask them to verify that they can hear adequately, because if you don't record your session, if you do not have good enough or adequate volume, I cannot grade it, and I cannot give you a grade, and you're going to have to redo the assignment if you want any points for it at all. So please take the time to do it. I don't want anybody in tears or have to redo it, so please do a quality check slide. And then you're going to begin your session, and it's going to be done in the practical inquiry model using the triggering phase, exploration phase, integration phase, and then resolution phase. And what you should have is the signaling slide at the start at each one of these with the black slide and the white writing. Now, what you want to do is when the slide comes up, you can say triggering phase, but then be silent for 5 seconds. And the reason why you want to be silent is because at the end of the class, one of the assignments is that you will use TechSmith Camtasia to make a recording of this web conference, and you will be adding chapter markers. Just think about chapter headings, and you will doing it for each phase, and it makes it easier to find those phases by seeing where on the audio levels there's those 5 seconds of silence. So it comes up, triggering phase, please be quiet for about 5 seconds and then go on. In the triggering phase, you're going to have a couple of slides, just like last week, of information in the triggering area. Maybe you do a hook and hold activity. Maybe you tell them the big idea of the session. And then you're going to ask questions in the triggering phase. Oftentimes, that's not where you're doing the information mini lectures, but maybe you want to find out about their previous levels of knowledge in the area, or what their thoughts on or something, if they're afraid of this, or what their feelings on or that. So it's just it's an area to get folks started. Ask them if they've ever heard of it. And so those are all sorts of find interesting ways to get them engaged or interested, or find out what they know about the topic. So ways to do that they could raise their hand and talk. Now, one of the things I'm going to caution you about is, because your session needs to be relatively short, you are going to have to manage them so that they don't talk too much. So they have to be very short and very succinct. So you may want to think about if you want to use the raise hand and talk too much. Maybe you want to have them do a think and write activity. Again, because your session is so short, it's going to have to be a very short activity. So give them 15 seconds perhaps to write it down. So continuing with some slides and the triggering information, maybe you share what's going to be expected of them. Maybe you share the learning objectives. Maybe you do a quick icebreaker with them. And again, so maybe in the icebreaker, they're required to, text you some information. So I would recommend coming up with slides that have a template or a format that you're going to use for all the assessment type activities. So in this case, perhaps it has a title at the top, what your question is, the directions on how they respond to it, and then directions for your virtual students. And so you will be telling them what to do, and they're able to read it at the same time, which minimizes cognitive load. So you may need to come down here and coach them to come over here and turn on their chat, turn off their chat, and then type in and then hit enter. So you give them the directions. Do you want them to hit enter right away, or do you want them to hold off on hitting enter until you coach them? Those are all things you need to decide on how you do it. And then perhaps you're just trying to get their feelings about the topic. How do they feel about it? And they can come down and use their emoticon. Again, your question, directions on how to do it, coach them to where to find the emoticon reactions, and then what the virtual students do. Perhaps they include it in the missed class summary. So then we come to the exploration phase. Again, perhaps you say exploration phase and you're quiet for 5 seconds. So in the exploration phase, these are the mini or micro lectures where you have 2 or 3 slides about an idea or concept, and then you're going to be continually assessing that, hey, we talked about this idea, now let me test and see if you understand it. And how you understand it is with these tools that are built into your web conferencing. So whether it's Zoom or WebEx or Blackboard, there are always tools built into these web conferencing. You just need to figure out, the system you're using and how you're going to use the tools. So in this case, you may need to coach them because you turned on annotations ahead of time. And if you remember how to do that, you're going to go to participant and assign privileges, and you're going to click on controls, and you're going to need to make sure that this annotate is selected, and then okay. So students, however, to get their annotation to show, have to click on this little squiggly in the right hand corner, and then their annotation tools launch on the left hand side. It is not intuitive to students. You will need to coach them through. You will want to have annotations set up ahead of the meeting, and then one of the, on the opening slide, I would give them directions to go ahead and click on the little squiggly annotations, and so hopefully that's done ahead of time. If not, you just coach them through it. So in this one, we wanted them to use the arrow, and so they can go ahead and say, hey, it's a hippopotamus, or hey, it's a zebra. And then again, exploration phase, a few more slides with your mini or micro lecture, and then another assessment. In this case, you wanted them to be able to use their shape tool. And so, in this case, I will use the oval, and you can even change colors if you want. So I'm going to go over here to blue. Can you make that even thicker? I'm not sure. I don't think so. So all sorts of different tools over there. And then we're going to get to the integration tool. The integration phase is the one where you are going to do the case study or prompt and the breakout rooms. So you'll have a couple of slides here to introduce your case study. So perhaps you want to have a couple of slides that build up to the case study. So if you're talking about, maybe you talk about the discipline and some of the preface the setup for the case study. Maybe you give some more examples or some background about it, and then you're going to come to the slide where the case study is. Now you introduce the case study in the main room here. So you're going to have your case study or prompt in the main room. You go over it, or it is possible, I've done this a lot, where every single group has a different case study, and that's fine too. But in this case, we're just going to have one case study. So have the case study in the main room, have directions on how the students will complete it. Say in a minute here, I'm going to paste the URL to the Google Slides, and you guys will click on that and go in it. You will go into your slide and you will write down their answer to the Google slide. You will also go into your breakout room, so you guys have the ability to talk within it. And you also want to give directions to the virtual students. Now, what I would recommend is just getting your live students up and going, give them the directions, get them booted over to working in their breakout rooms, and then also on the Google Slides. And then while they're working, take the time and speak to your virtual students and tell them what to do. So let's go ahead and start with your live students. So you will go ahead and first with your Google Slides, you'll get the URL and you will paste it in here and in their text chat, and that's where they will work on it. And then you will come down here to the breakout room, and you click on the 3 little ellipses. And let me turn that off for now, pretend like it's turned off, but we'll come over here, click on the 3 ellipses, and you do this ahead of time. You get the breakout room set up ahead of time, and you can see here that I did have it set up with the 4 breakout rooms. And if you, heaven forbid, do this and it's not right, or you realized you messed up, you can always click on reset and quickly redo it, but it's set up correctly. Then you click on start breakout rooms, the breakout rooms start, and so the students will click on the link, they'll go into their breakout rooms, and then when you're ready to stop the breakout room, you can go ahead, we'll go ahead and start them, and then when you're ready to So when you're ready to end it, you can go ahead and click another feature of it. If you want to send them a message ahead of time to say, hey, I'm going to, stop the breakout room, you can click on broadcast, send them a message, and they get it, because I've had students complain when you just close it. But when you do close it in breakout rooms, you can end the sessions. And brings them all back. So and then you would have somebody in the group, and even though there's 4 groups, remember you're sending everybody to group 1, then they would click on share, they would report back and then come back together. So that's your case study. And then after the case study report back, you as the instructor would do a quick debrief, make the connections between what they found and the content and how that all comes together, and then perhaps summarize it all. So then the last phase is the resolution phase. Again, have a signaling slide that identifies this phase, maybe identify it, say resolution phase, and then be quiet for 5 seconds. In the resolution phase, this is where you're wrapping the lesson up. So perhaps you're going to wrap it up, perhaps you're going to conclude, perhaps you're going to summarize the big ideas of the class and what went on. And then you want to have some interaction, some activities during this session too. So maybe you could say, please share one thing that you learned in today's class. You want to have directions, and then directions for the virtual students too. So again, you're going to have to keep them very short for this activity, probably in any time you are. And then a couple of other resolution information slides. Perhaps you're going to do a short assessment, and you should do a short assessment to measure all the information. And in this session, what I want you guys to do is do a Slido poll. And Slido is an application that's a different company, and it comes free with the WebEx license. And so down here in WebEx, there's a little icon that says apps. So this is something that you should have created ahead of the session. And so now you're ready to launch it in the middle of the session. And that's why you don't want to take the time to do it live. So I'm going to click on apps, and I'm going to go ahead and click on Slido. That does the handshake between your WebEx session and the session, they go between the online Slido cloud-based version. So we will come over here, and there's what's there. Oh, here we are. And so you should have a slide here that's associated with each individual question in Slido. And because it's kind of difficult to see them over here, like when I activate the first one, it will show the question, what are the Wright State colors, and shows the answers, but it's not very easy to see. So the main slide, the PowerPoint slide, should have the question, what are the Wright State colors? It should have directions, and it should have the possible answers, if it's going to be, black and white, red and white, green and gold. But this is a static slide, and the students will interact and answer over here on the right, on the Slido portion of it. So students will come, select the right answer, and when you're done with it, we'll go ahead and open the voting open for participants, and then we'll close the voting. So we will come back over here, and then you will go to the next slide. This next slide will have the individual next question, the individual directions, the individual answers, and we will go ahead and launch this one. And so what is the Wright State mascot? This slide over here will say on the main PowerPoint slide, same information. If there's multiple choice answers, and then participants will go ahead and type in the answer, and then you will open for voting, and then you will close it for voting. Next, so that you need to have a couple in there. So that is your Slido. When you're done, you're going to go back to the apps. You can even close that down. You can even close it down completely if you don't want to show it within WebEx. All right, so in resolution, maybe you need to tell them, what they need to do after doing this web conference. Perhaps they need to do their homework. Perhaps they need to do a quiz. So be sure to wrap it up and tell them what's next. And if you want to do another integration, if you want to do another activity, you can do a think, write, reflection. And you always want to save time if they have questions. So, ask them if they have questions, issues, anything they need to discuss. And then thank everybody for coming, and be sure to have a slide and tell them what they should do next. Okay, so that's what we're expecting for the third web conference. I can't wait to see them, and I'm looking forward to the assignment. Thanks, guys. Bye.